If we have a recession ahead, which we may, it will be the most widely anticipated and longest anticipated recession in modern history. So people are always asking questions, and so I thought I'd take a moment to answer a few of them. My age, without my glasses on, I can't see beans from bananas, so I got to put them on these big cards here, begin to feel like I'm Johnny Carson or something. But let me just rattle through a couple of questions, a couple of fast answers. If Japan can have a lost decade, why can't we? Well, we could, but we'd have to have the same kind of circumstances that they had, and we don't. So in the period that's ahead for the next decade or so, we won't. The fact is, their world suffered demographic problems that the rest of the world doesn't so much have. They've got a very population skewed away from prime working age. They aren't as entrepreneurial as the American economy by far, or as innovative. And from that, the fact is we just naturally grow better than did they, and then we don't have the hugely overwhelming negative excessive valuations that they had as they started that period. What about deflation or stagflation? Please put a light on it. Well, the fact of the matter is, we don't much really do deflation in our world. The fact is there is some ongoing political pressure to keep the quantity of money growing enough that you have no deflation. Deflation being defined as over time the consumer price index actually going down. The central bank in America, the Federal Reserve, and most central banks aren't even looking for that. They're not thinking about that. They're not wanting that. They're wanting something that looks like maybe 2% a year inflation. 2% a year inflation in the long term builds up, but it is a little bit of inflation. That's what they want, not actual deflation. They want from here, where we are, disinflation to get them down to that low level. Disinflation meaning inflation falling down to that level, not actually going to absolute falling prices of yesteryear. On stagflation, the one has really nothing much to do with the other. Stagflation doesn't really have much to do with deflation. Stagflation is where you have inflation and a long period where we can't grow. Again, this means mostly that something like regulations or other cultural restrictions stop the innovative process from being able to create growth, and therefore that stagnant economy over some long period of time. That also is very unlikely to happen in a world where venture capital is abundant, companies are started all the time trying to do the next crazy new thing, and 9 out of 10 of them fail, but 1 out of 10 of them works, and that creates all kind of growth. It seems like media's new obsession or next shoe to drop is falling earnings. Wondering your thought on earnings and if you perceive them to be rolling over. Well, if you think we've got a recession, they're rolling over. If you don't think we've got a recession, they're not. My view is it's at worst a mild recession ahead, maybe no recession at all. I will say to you that what corporate management tends to do overwhelmingly, it's a well-understood game that for a well-understood game not everybody seems to understand. They regularly talk down expectations for how they'll do ahead so that when they actually report results, they can exceed expectations and can brag about exceeding expectations. That's what you should expect. You should expect them to talk down earnings, media to say, see, look at what's going on with earnings, and then watch the earnings exceed expectations. I'm going to tell you that normally they're exceeding expectations 70 to 85% of the time, in good times and bad. And I expect that'll happen in the period ahead. Do you think this will be a light recession because of the majority of companies are expecting a recession and have started to prepare? It seems like the worst recessions are the ones we do not see coming. Let me just say that in my lifetime, 50 years as a professional investor plus, it has always been true that we don't see recessions coming. Recessions have always been a surprise. If we have a recession ahead, which we may, it will be the most widely anticipated and longest anticipated recession in modern history, in the history where we can actually measure things in those ways with some accuracy. The fact is, as I've said in my New York Post column, Anticipation is mitigation. When CEOs and people see risk ahead, they get themselves ready. They try to prepare for the tougher times they fear. So that process mitigates. Normally, a recession is all about correcting the excesses of the past, from ones that were built during the prior bull market and economic expansion, and the recession cleans those out. When we have this rare occurrence where a recession is expected, businesses start doing that. You've got a huge number of layoffs that have already occurred. You've got all kinds of companies that have frozen employment. Meanwhile, the economy keeps growing slowly, and the signals are mixed. I will tell you that all of the traditional tells that always used to work for predicting recession, they all say we're going to have recession. The fact of the matter is I don't think most of them apply today the way they once did, because today everybody can see them on their iPhone. The fact is, when I was young, if you wanted to see what the leading economic index said, you had to go dig out data in a library or someplace like that. If you wanted to know about PMIs, almost no one did, purchasing manager indexes. Things like the yield curve inversion. When I was young, nobody understood the yield curve inversion was an indicator of recession ahead. Now everybody does, and I believe, for reasons I've explained many times, many places, that it's lost its power completely. But you take the leading economic index, which used to be very powerful when I was young, and I was on record saying that I loved. It doesn't have the power you'd think it has, because it's about the manufacturing side, not the services side. And the services side today is twice the size of the manufacturing side. It doesn't tell you anything. I think we'll have a mild recession, if we have a recession at all, because anticipation is mitigation. We had 2 quarters, the first 2 quarters of 2022, that were negative in GDP, albeit only this much, and much of it for technical reasons. And starting back then, everyone was afraid we were going into recession right away, and businesses started moving toward preparing then. As the year went on, recession expectations have gone now to all-time highs. And because recession expectations are at all-time highs, measured various ways, everybody under the sun is preparing. Preparation is mitigation. Anticipation is mitigation. Preparation is really blessed because it cleans out the problems that normally you clean out inside the recession, not beforehand, making the recession either go away or be more mild than it would be otherwise. Thank you very much for listening to me. Subscribe to the Fisher Investment YouTube channel if you like what you've seen. Click the bell to be notified as soon as we publish new videos.